In Islamic scholarship, stupidity, often referred to as al-hunk or al-bala, is rarely treated as a mere lack of IQ. Instead, it is viewed through a moral, spiritual, and intellectual lens. Scholars differentiate between a natural lack of cognitive ability, which is met with compassion, and the fool, al-ahmaq, who possesses a functional mind but uses it incorrectly. First, defining the fool, al-ahmaq. The most influential work on this subject is Ibn al-Jawzi's Akhbar al-Hamka wal-Mughafalin, account of the fools and the simpletons. He defines stupidity as acting with the correct intention but using the wrong means to achieve it. According to this view, a stupid person isn't necessarily someone who doesn't know anything. Rather, they are someone who lacks proportionality and context. They might try to fix a delicate silk robe with a heavy blacksmith's hammer. Their intention, fixing the robe, is good, but their method is ruinous. Second, the root, a corruption of aql, intellect. Islamic scholars generally divide the intellect into two categories. Garizi, the basic ability to perceive reality. Muktasab, wisdom gained through experience and adherence to divine guidance. Al-Ghazali and other ethicists argue that stupidity is a sickness of the aql. While a simpleton balu might be spiritually pure and exempt from certain social responsibilities, the fool is often viewed as dangerous because they are confident in their ignorance. Third, characteristics of stupidity in scholarly tradition. Scholars like Al-Jahiz and Imam al-Shafi'i identified specific behavioral markers of stupidity. Characteristic scholarly perspective. Loquaciousness, talking excessively about things that do not concern them. Self-admiration, the inability to see one's own faults. The fool is always pleased with himself. Inconsistency, being harsh when they should be kind, or lenient when they should be firm. Hastiness responding before hearing the full question or forming a judgment without evidence. Fourth, the incurable nature of stupidity. There is a famous, though often debated tradition attributed to Jesus, Isa as, in Islamic literature, frequently cited by scholars like Ibn Abi al-Dunya. I was able to heal the blind and the leper by the leave of Allah, but I was unable to heal the fool. This suggests that while physical ailments or simple lack of knowledge can be cured, stupidity, defined as a willful misalignment of judgment, is an ingrained character flaw that is nearly impossible to rectify because the fool does not believe they need healing. Fifth, social and spiritual consequences. Scholars emphasize fleeing from the fool, al-firar min al-ahmaq. Imam Jafar al-Sadiq famously advised, "Do not befriend a fool, for he desires to benefit you but only harms you." Stupidity is seen as a barrier to taqwa, as it prevents a person from weighing the long-term consequences of their soul over immediate, poorly judged impulses. References. Akhbar al-Hamka, the primary source for the psychology of stupidity. Al-Mawardi Adab al-Dunya wal-Din focuses on how stupidity affects social governance and personal ethics. Ihya Ulum al-Din discusses stupidity as a veil over the heart. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi's Akhbar al-Hamka, Tales of the Fools, is a masterpiece because it uses biting wit to illustrate a serious philosophical point. Stupidity is a failure of logic, not a failure of data. Few famous anecdotes and the lessons scholars derive from them. First, the tale of the lost camel. One anecdote describes a man whose camel went missing. He made a solemn oath to God that if he found his camel, he would sell it for a single dirham, a tiny amount of money. When he eventually found the camel, he regretted his oath because the animal was worth much more. To cheat his way out of the oath without technically breaking it, he tied a cat to the camel's neck and took them to the market. He announced, "The camel is for 1 dirham, but the cat is for 1,000 dirhams. I will not sell one without the other." The scholarly lesson, Ibn al-Jawzi, uses this to show that a fool believes he can trick divine law or reality through technicalities. It highlights deceitful reasoning. The fool thinks he is being clever, but his logic is transparently flawed. Second, the logic of the cool water. Another story tells of a man who was asked why he didn't drink from his well. He replied, "The water is too cold, and I fear it will chill my stomach." When told to boil the water to warm it up, He replied, "But then it will be hot, and I fear it will burn my throat." The scholarly lesson. This illustrates analysis paralysis and the inability to find the middle path. Al-Wasat. In Islamic ethics, wisdom is often defined as the balance between two extremes. The fool is someone who sees only the extremes and cannot navigate the practical middle. The anatomy of intellect versus stupidity. To understand why these stories were included in serious scholarly texts, we have to look at how the mind was mapped. Scholars believe the intellect functioned like a machine with specific parts. Al-Fahm, understanding, the ability to grasp what is being said. Al-Hifz, the ability to retain information. Al-Tamyiz, the ability to judge between good and bad, or useful and harmful. Scholars argue that a stupid person might have a great memory, Hifz, and perfect hearing, Fahm, but their discernment, Tamyiz, is broken. They have the data, but lack the processor to make it useful. Last, Asma'i and the Bedouin. The famous grammarian Al-Asma'i once met a Bedouin who was praying with great fervor. After the prayer, the Bedouin asked God for a palace in paradise, gold and fine silks. Al-Asma'i remarked, "You are asking for much, yet your prayer was full of grammatical errors." The Bedouin replied, "Does God look at the grammar or the heart?" Al-Asma'i conceded the point, but later noted that while the heart was sound, the Bedouin's refusal to learn the proper way to speak, an act of the mind, limited his ability to truly honor what he was doing. The scholarly lesson. This distinguishes between the simpleton, Mughafal, and the fool. The simpleton is often praised for having a pure heart, whereas the fool is criticized for having a lazy or arrogant mind.